I'm glad that the Lord led you to get up and come to the house of the Lord today. And I believe that you're in for a treat. If you would turn in your Bibles, Habakkuk chapter 2. I've got a word from God. The second chapter of the book of Habakkuk. This wonderful prophet, sometimes you don't judge the significance of something by how voluminous it is. Habakkuk is considered one of the minor prophets, but he's a minor prophet with a major message. And notice here the word of the Lord. I will stand my watch, beginning with verse 1, and set myself on the rampart and watch to see what he will say to me and what I will answer when I am corrected. And then the Lord answered me and said, write the vision, make it plain on tablets, that he may run who reads it, for the vision is yet for an appointed time. But at the end it will speak and it will not lie. Though it tarries, wait for it, because it will surely come. It will not tarry. And I want to talk to you today from the subject of the process of vision. The process of vision. The process of it. There is a process to vision. I'd like to begin by telling you the story of a young girl, most of whom you have heard the story of Helen Keller, born in 1880. She was not born blind, she was not born deaf, but when she was about 19 months old, she was stricken with an illness that left her blind and deaf. And as the years progressed, she became very, very hard to control, very rambunctious behavior. But you know, she grew up in a very affluent family. Her folks were wealthy, but yet they had something to happen to their little girl that they didn't have the power to control, and their money couldn't help her. And they had servants in their house, and one of the servants had a daughter that was around Helen's age. Her name was Mary Washington. Most of us have heard of Anne Sullivan, but it was really Mary Washington who opened up Helen's world. They couldn't control her. She was like a wild animal until Mary Washington befriended her and taught her over 60 sign languages. And she began to give her enough tools to be able to at least communicate with some decency of intelligence with her family. And it was not until later that she met Anne Sullivan. But when Helen was 6 years old, her mother finally reached out to some friends to try to find some help for her, and she was referred to a specialist who worked with deaf children. Guess who his name was? Alexander Graham Bell, the founder of the Bell system, when it used to be Southern Bell and Northwestern Bell and all of these. Well, he had a gift working with deaf children, and they called Alexander Graham Bell, and Mr. Bell spent time with Helen, and he ended up referring her to the Perkins Institute for the Blind. And this is where Helen met Anne Sullivan. And Anne was a 20-year-old graduate of that same institute because she had been totally blind. And Anne Sullivan went through a series of operations herself, and she was able to regain partial sight. And so she was sighted after a series of operations. And finally, Anne Sullivan got permission to be able to take Helen Keller away from her family and to help her focus. And after taking her into seclusion and isolating her from her family, she was able to break her of some of that wild behavior and some of the tantrums that she would throw. And so her world under Anne Sullivan's care began to grow exponentially. And little did she know that what was a weakness in her life, not having sight nor sound, that her sight and sound limitations became a great strength and provided her with great wisdom. Can you imagine what would happen to you if you couldn't hear anybody talk you out of your dreams? Can you imagine how you can become empowered if you couldn't see anybody making faces at you, rolling their eyes at you? And if you got one idea in your mind or in your heart to do, and you can never hear anybody say anything negative concerning that idea, can you get an idea of the amount of focus that this young girl could do? If that was something that got in her mind, she couldn't see anything that could discourage her from it, and she couldn't hear anything that could discourage her from it. And she focused in on that strength. And let me tell you what happened as a result of that. She once said that what I am looking for is not out there, it's in me. This little blind deaf girl said that what I'm looking for is not out there, it's in me. And she would go on to become the first blind person to ever graduate from college. She traveled the world as a famous speaker and an author. And Helen Keller and Anne Sullivan became very close friends, and they traveled the world and they met international dignitaries from more than 40 countries from around the world. She met every United States president from Grover Washington to Lyndon B. Johnson, and was friends with many famous figures, from Alexander Graham Bell to Charlie Chaplin to Mark Twain. She passed away in 1968 at the age of 87 years old. And I believe a powerful lesson that she leaves us is that we must all look inward in order to grow outward. You got to look inward in order to grow outward. And I want to talk about the process of vision. Anne Sullivan was blind, and she went through a series of operations that then restored partially her sight. There is a process to vision. You notice that it said here about write the vision and make it plain. Somebody say process. Now, hear this word process means something going on. If it's a process, it means something going on. Say something going on. Now that's a message in and of itself to you. Something going on. You're in process. Something is going on. You're in process. It means that when you are made, it means that it's not an instantaneous thing. It's something in process. You go from praying about desiring to do something to then getting on the floor and crawling, to then learning how to eventually pull yourself up on the furniture, to then begin to take one or two steps and then fall, and a few more steps and then fall, and a few more steps and then fall. And it's about growing little by little in stages. It's something going on. Say something going on. Now, when I say something going on, when you say process, it means something going on. Now, that's literally what the dictionary said. Webster says process is something going on. Now, that means that you shouldn't let anything stop you, because you're something going on. That means if you have a bad relationship, don't let it stop you. You get in a bad marriage, don't let it stop you. If you have sickness, don't let it stop you. If you're dealing with a handicap in your life, don't let it stop